I know it's started. Oh, see, same as last week, still the helmet there. Although I do have something more interesting than water this time. So I don't think it's going to take us too long this week to go through this. Let's have a little look at what we're going to do. So we're touching on personal traits, attitudes, values again. So it's a continuation of last week's stunning lecture. I'm hoping we've had a good discussion on teams and in the tutorial following on from last week's lecture. And you've done a bit of research into it, and maybe you've spotted people's habits and presentations and all that in your workplace if you're at work. It's one thing you can do. The stuff we talked about last week and this week, etc. You can just sit there in the office and go, oh yeah, I can see that. Oh yeah, Kevin mentioned that. Yeah. Oh look, that bloke's got 3 knives in his back. Oh yeah, Kevin mentioned that. We do have to joke. Can't take it all too seriously. Now on the Moodle site, I found this Mahatma Gandhi quote, and I'm not into this stuff, but I thought this was absolutely spot on. So it is. Your beliefs become your thoughts. And they do. There's that conspiracy theorists get going, and then occasionally they're proved correct, but not often. So they believe something, and it becomes their thoughts. I've got a friend like that. Your thoughts become your words. It's logical. Your words become your actions. Yes, you can't argue with it so far. This is from a man who used to wear a nappy by the look of it. Your actions become your habits. That was a joke, by the way. And we're getting into habits. These are difficult to change now. Your habits become your values. Now, let's hope your habits were good habits and not bad habits. Or we're in trouble, aren't we? So they become your values, and your values become your destiny. Think of it this way. If you've got the right values, you're going to go up the ladder at work. You're going to do really well. If your values are rubbish, your destiny's not going to be that good, is it? So think of it from the work-related thing, and not so much from the thingy one. What is it, you know? Okay, well, let's have a look at what we've got there. So we've got social pressure, job satisfaction, communications, and personality. Let's look at your personalities first. Okay, comes down to, I've decided to look at the leadership styles, the types of leadership style that you will work under. Hopefully most of them you won't. And the leadership style that you will hopefully develop yourself. Okay. These come from particular websites, and whenever I've taken stuff, little bits of things to make up the lecture from the website, I will tell you who it is. Notice you have to reference, and I'll even give you the link that you can go to see it. And if I click that now, guess what? It opened on that screen. So I drag that screen across, and you can just see that the link opens up, and you can see the common leadership styles. This is where it came from. They say a lot more than I've included, all right? There's a lot more than I've included here. I'm going to sit here to be able to wave to you. You'll forget it. So let's start with the first one, which will be the democratic leader. Okay? This is a leader who basically lets everybody have input into a decision. Now, it's good. It's considered generally. It is an effective way of leading and managing. For various reasons. One, the team involved actually have some ownership on the decision, so it's not just dumped on them. So they go, oh, yeah, we talked about that. I understand why we chose this one. So they're more likely to support it. And you get lower level employees, not the nicest way of putting it really, but they actually, think of a newbie. You've got a newbie in the team, and they actually get to give their opinion whilst they're discussing this, the democratic approach. That motivates them, it mentors them, and it trains them. So in the medium to long term, it really does help their careers that they are used to this. Okay, so they'll use it in future. But the democratic approach is good. From my experience, it works really well in small to medium-sized teams. When you get to a slightly bigger team, it can become somewhat unwieldy. You can do this by discussing an opportunity of what you're going to do. You can do it electronically with emails, or they might be using Microsoft Teams or something. But it still needs to be, all that still needs to be brought together. We would have said around the table, but nowadays we're probably going to do it as a video conference. So Zoom or Teams or whichever, or Skype. But that's when the decision is finally made. But you can put all of your input leading up to it. So democratic leadership, yes, that's considered quite a good one. I would argue that it can be a bit slow sometimes, but that's not a bad thing. The autocratic leadership, oh dearie me, they just make a decision. The leader will make a decision without asking anybody, without taking anyone's views. If they do take someone's view, they ignore it. So the employees that have to undertake all the work, they're not consulted, they're not even considered. This is not considered, by the way, a good approach. I have worked under this. You get a lot of staff turnover because they're not listened to. They believe their skills aren't being used to their optimum, and they go. And you do lose a lot of staff in this sort of thing. Oh, let them do it. Yeah. Laissez-faire. Well, why we have to use foreign names, I don't know. Basically, let them do it. And the leaders who do this just delegate everything. The leader sits there in his little office doing whatever, while everybody else is delegated to do things, and they almost make their own decisions at times. And it's fantastic when it works. Wait till it doesn't work. Staff aren't too keen on this one. You don't get good staff development and that. You're not mentoring very well. And it does overlook, because the staff have got quite a blinkered view on just their small area, where the manager should have a more strategic view of the whole thing. Because you've got this blinkered view, quite opportunities get missed. They can be missed, overlooked, undervalued, overvalued. So not a great one, this, not a great style at all. The strategic leadership. Normally they like this, especially with larger organisations like strategic. They tend to separate the strategic planning and management from the actual personnel part of it. They'll support a large number of people. They might be the manager for 3 departments and 100 people or something, and they're managing away quite happily. But the trouble is, people look at them and think, oh, hang on a minute, why can't everyone deal with that number of staff, and we can cut back on managers or something? It's bad, a dangerous precedent, as it says there. It can put these managers under immense stress eventually, and they can end up with lots of mental problems and physical problems if this type of leadership is forced upon them. It suits some people, but it doesn't generally work that well. I have seen this one before. I don't know. Didn't really bother me that much, but where are we here? Oh, coach style leadership. This is probably the closest to me, actually. Always transforming and improving on the conventions. Oh, it's not me. No, this isn't my one. Sorry, I'll take that back. You'll have a basic set of tasks to do. You know, your job description says you do this, this, and this, and you've got to do it each week and month, and then you'll be monitored and checked. It might be a key performance indicator you've done them all. Staff are often sent to do stuff that's not within their skill set without training, or without a mentor to hold their hand as they learn to do something. That can increase stress levels on staff an awful lot. It's reasonable form of leadership, especially for companies that are growing. It's all right. Small high-tech companies and things like that would do very well with this. It does motivate employees to see what they can do, but if they keep failing or get too stressed, you do get a lot of them leave. They'll wander off. Interestingly, I read something the other day that I spelt result wrong. Oh well. That some of the staff from these high-tech companies that have suffered this and have decided to, leave, have set up their own company and done extremely well. So it's not the staff that's the issue, it seems to be the management style that could be the issue there. Transformational leadership, yes. This is basically big institutions like governments, definitely governments where I worked briefly. They might listen to what employees are saying and their input. They might consider it, which is not like the autocratic who just don't consider it whatsoever and don't even ask for it or look for it. But it's generally any employees using that are generally rejected. I worked for a Queensland government department. I was manager of property, and yeah, this is exactly what I suffered here. The people above, the directors, basically didn't want to listen. They didn't want to disturb the balance of everything, especially if the employees are coming up with ideas which are not in line with the policies or past practices. Why rock the boat if it's working? Well, that's how companies or government departments that can get in real trouble eventually. The problem is the staff don't have any freedom in what they can do in their role. They are very pigeonholed and they're stuck with, obviously they might have policies and practices that they know aren't working properly, but that's what they have to do. You get very little innovation with this because there's no point. Why should I suggest something? Because they're not going to do it anyway. So you don't get that. You stagnate, should we say? Do not encourage this type of management approach for companies who have got really ambitious goals and quick growth, like a sales-based organisation or a modern media or high-tech company. Absolutely no point using it for them. In fact, I'll go no point using it almost anywhere. This is why government department, cause I'll come back to that because I experienced that for 18 months or so. So frustrating. I actually left because of ill health because of that. Would you really want to be stuck there and just be a number on a sheet? So it's not the best style at all, that one, that transformation one. Why have we gone back to the coach? Why have we gone back to the coach style again? Oh, this is me, coach style. This is me. Sorry, I got confused. This is definitely me. The leader, once upon a time, focused on identity, focused on staff, and I'm looking for their strengths and I'm nurturing them. I'm playing to their strengths and giving them the opportunity to improve themselves, expand their abilities. I'll give them training, I will mentor them. So you're really involved with your staff, because if your staff perform well, then obviously the organisation's outcomes are better. I like to work on strategies that enable the team to work better together. This is why I keep forcing you to use Microsoft Teams, because it's really, really good. And remember, any discussions about this week's lecture go into week 3 team, not the general one. Okay, otherwise you won't be able to find them if you want to look them up later on. I'll actually build, this sort of leader, I keep saying me, build the team which has got the right expertise and skill set in it, but also get a couple of team members that don't have them so they can learn off the others. And often you do not want clones around you. You want people with different views, because they can come up with a brand new way of doing or looking at something which no one's thought of, and is very valuable. So in the long run, I focus on creating strong teams that communicate well and embrace each other's unique skill sets, so they actually like each other. They can see, oh, he can help me with this bit and that bit, and I'll teach him this bit. The communicating well bit of the government department, I found out that in the policy and that of the department, there was nothing about having a drink, nothing stopping you having a drink after work hours in the office. Probably is now, it wasn't then. So I managed to find a fridge somewhere else, I bought some beers and wines, put them in there, and on a Friday afternoon at 5 p.m, we'd all sit round and we'd have a beer and a wine and talk about the week, and that worked really, really well until people above didn't like it. Like I got a slap on the wrist for tutorials last term, because I sat there at the first tutorial and said, look, these tutorials are in your own time. You would have heard this, by the way. If you want to come and have a drink, have your tea, whatever, then feel free. It's your time. I'm having a glass of wine, by the way, so got in trouble for encouraging the use of alcohol there. Naughty Kevin. Bureaucratic. Lovely. Basically, your KPIs are strict. This would be like a call centre almost, where you are rewarded or paid for exactly what you do. Nothing more, nothing less. You've got roles and responsibilities for an employee, but it can result in the employees doing the absolute minimum possible. What's the advantage? You know, this is really common in sales, by the way, if you're selling, because you'll have generally you'll have a low base salary but a high bonus. So you're rewarded for what you do. If you have a good month, you get more money. If you have a bad month, you get less money. Employees that, and of course there'll be your star performers, and there'll be your support staff below who don't have the opportunity to get bonuses and that. They won't be feeling too good about this. But this is really common in sales, anything like sales. Okay, not really applied to us as professionals. So that was your personalities. That's your leadership personalities. Communications. Very straightforward this is, and we mentioned it last week. Don't use buzzwords, technical words, professional slang when you're dealing with your clients or people who don't understand it. I mean, there's just a few there that BOQ, bill of quantities. Quantity surveyors, no, that all estimate, they'd understand it. Not all clients would, I tell you. Millwork, I'm not going to tell you that. You could find out. Zoning, egress. Well, you could have just said entrance, exit, I suppose, but no, egress. Section, look at the drawings to see a section where you've chopped through a building to show all the constructional details. Chalking, and I don't mean a blackboard. HVAC, well, you just say heating or air conditioning or something. That stands for heating, ventilation and air conditioning. So you've got to be up to date with all the latest technology, the information technology and the systems. This changes all the time. You cannot just, you've got to keep on track with it. Good organisations, when they upgrade or introduce new systems like these, they'll give you training on it anyway. But you might come across these systems in a client's environment and you may not be able to use them. So obviously the one at the top here, we've got all the Microsoft products. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Note, Skype. Remember, Skype's owned by Microsoft now. And then there's Outlook, which you use an awful lot of. Oh, that one over there, that's Access, that's the database. OneDrive, the online storage, and that one. Teams that we're using. Okay, Teams, fantastic. So you come down, so you've got Office and spreadsheets, you've got computer aided design, buzzword you see, CAD, building information management, BIM. I'm doing it deliberately, to be honest. You've got various databases, you've got specialist software, Microsoft Teams, and there will be archival protocols and that, which comes down to being organised, etc. We mentioned last week. And there's a few here. So these are proprietary ones. So this one here, BIM, this is a building information management system. AutoCAD. If you're going to be in project management, this one does tenant file. It records all the tenancies, etc. This one here, Enterprise, or I'll put my hand there, Enterprise Access. That's for all your human resources and your payments, etc. And this is an English one, ISO. This is to do due diligence residential inspections. And there are a lot more that you'll come across. These are just a little snapshot that I came for. Up there, you've got to be able to write, whether it's handwritten or on a computer. And this comes down to the clarity of the English. language you're using. When I do larger documents, well, basically if I get to anything that's more than a page long, I use voice dictation. Dragon naturally speaking. It's trained well for me, and I can dictate. There's no barrier between the dyslexic Kevin and the keyboard. I talk away. It's about 95, maybe a bit more accurate now. And once you've gone through it, and then I run Grammarly Professional over it, which picks up a lot of the mistakes, and then the spelling goes through it, you get a much better document much quicker. And you tend to, when you're speaking, you have to make sure you speak more professional and formally. Apart from that, there you go. You have to be capable of being accurate, clear, logical and transparent in your writing. Most of your communication from this point of view is going to be some type of report or letter, but we'll spill over into some of those databases and specialist systems as well. Alright, so avoid all the jargon and everything. Go backy. Job satisfaction. We all like to be satisfied with our work, don't we? So, main one up here. Honesty and communication about a company's objectives and goals are linked to job satisfaction for employees. Well-known research. I forgot to reference it. The one down the bottom here. When an employee is able to make a choice, they feel more motivated to perform a task. And when an employee is more motivated to perform a task and complete it, your project, whatever, tends to be linked to higher job satisfaction. I did reference that one. Okay, so notice up here, this is where these came from, right? So reference the way nicely for you there. So you've got to be able to, for job satisfaction, those 10 things have a direct impact on how happy you are. Are they communicating with you? Is the culture friendly or toxic? Do you feel secure in your job? Is the leadership style good for you? Because it's different people, we all want different ones. Are there opportunities to improve and go up the ladder? And career development, is it there, or are you in a dead-end job? Are the working conditions good? When a lot of us are working from home, I tend to work a few days at home and then come in and do the recordings at the office because I get a bit bored. I like to see a couple of people. Not that there's many people around. We're all locked in our own little offices in Mackay, you see. Your general conditions, personality, what your personality is and the people around you. Are you paid enough? Your benefits. I know later in your career, like me, now I've got my mortgage sorted, the kids have all left home and everything. I'm not that motivated by high salaries now. I like to get paid, but benefits are increasingly important to people. You know, can they get longer holidays for less salary, or instead of a salary increase, get more holiday? Can they work from home more? There's loads of benefits. Benefits that were quite trendy were big office buildings having a gym and a nursery for the kids to go into and all that sort of stuff. Could get a little bit silly sometimes, but I can understand. My wife worked for Queensland Health, and they had one where a masseur would come round and massage your shoulders to relieve tension. That was a benefit. Oh, there we go. And then you've got the rewards and recognition. Not necessarily financial, to be honest. People say you've done a good job, and that can mean an awful lot. Doesn't happen too often. But you need to go out, managers and and colleagues need to go out their way and say, oh, you did really well there, oh, blah, 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 blah. And a reward could be a certificate, could be money, you never know. So the benefits, the more satisfied at work you are, from the company point of view, or the organisation's point of view, their profits will increase, or their productivity, higher productivity. You'll get less staff turnover. They'll be much more settled and stable. They'll stay together longer. They'll work together better. They'll understand the systems better and come up new ideas. So low staff turnover is very, very useful. Loyalty. Staff will be loyal to the brand. Okay. Well, I like CQU. I think they're all right. Probably better than a lot of places I've been at, really. But, and if your organisation is known for low staff turnover, it'll attract staff. It's one of the questions I ask whenever I had an interview. what's your staff turnover like? But I'd already tried to research it before. Because if you've got a lot of staff turning over, you go, why? What's wrong? And that affects that the organisation will have a much better reputation if your staff are very happy. Because they'll go, even social, they go, oh yeah, I'm working so-and-so, it's great. Oh, they let me do this, they let me do that. People will remember this. Not only will it attract staff, but clients will be impressed, which will improve or increase the amount of work you get. So it's an interesting connection, this is. Quite often overlooked. And then finally we'll have a look at social pressure, because this can have a very, very big effect on how you behave and perform in the workplace. Notice this one comes from another place here. That's not a link, but you can just type that in and find it if you want to. Oh, here's the link here. So the nature of how we conform within a social setting or group. 99% probably, I'm making the figure up there, but most people don't want to stick out. We don't want to stick our head above the fence. We want to be part of the group with all the other sheep. Unfortunately, people like me are not like that. And I will say things that people don't like. I will challenge things, and I will just generally, I will be like a day-glow jacket sore thumb. And it doesn't always work because you get singled out sometimes. But conformity has its place, and there is even me, have to conform to the ethics and everything like that. But don't have to copy other people. You don't have to be a clone. Companies that employ clones of everybody tend to struggle. They don't get much innovation if you've got too many clones. You don't want all mavericks like me, but what would I be called? A disruptive influencer. Well, I was when I was a little bit younger. So, normative social influence. It's a need to act in a way that'll help others like us. We all want to be accepted and liked, so we tend to copy them a bit. Now that's great unless you get in with the wrong group and you found the alcoholic in the team. That's an example. We try to replicate. You ever seen these things where people are talking, and you know, if I'm doing this talking, eventually the other person will do the same thing. They mimic you. Well, that goes more than just touching your nose and things. It goes a lot further than that. We like to belong to a group. Okay, whether it's subconscious or not, we like to belong to the group, and we will look at the people that have been there for longer, and they're the benchmark. They've survived. They're still here. That works. Whatever they're doing, that is working. And we'll assume that is normal and acceptable. It may not be. Be careful, it may not be. You conform. Well, we've said you conform. And you conform to the people around you, your colleagues, assuming they're right in whatever they're doing. If you've got a difficult decision to make, and there's too many choices, you're probably going to look to them and say, what would they do? It may not be right. So if you're stuck in a situation, you're stressed, you've got little time, and you've got to make a decision, you will look for someone that you socially get on with, not necessarily the skill sets or the profession part, because you can talk to them and you think they know better. You think they know better. They don't. From the research there, the majority of the social group where you are is often wrong. Okay? Most people don't know what they're talking about most of the time. What about me? Well, I've just read it, I know it, obviously, and I've lived it for 40 years, so. But most people, yeah, they. Second one, don't blow things out of proportion. Okay, if something happens, don't think it's the end of the world or whatever. Keep your thinking in check. Keep calm, as we said last week. Number 3, really important one, this one is, you've got to have a strong sense of yourself. Who you are, what your values are. You need that because you are an individual. People who have a weak sense of self, other people will mould them to be what they want, and they won't notice it. And just took me years to do this one. Did give up what other people thought about me. I don't care what other people think about me now, as long as I'm helping people. Find people who accept you as you are. All right, that might mean changing jobs sometimes, or getting manager change, or moving department, but that's what you need to do. Because people who accept you will support you. They will nurture you. They'll treat you fairly. Okay. So you're being true to yourself. Otherwise, it says here. Otherwise, if you haven't got anyone who's doing that for you, then you're in a death sentence in your social life. So you only want to stay. Next time you're out at an event, or you're in a meeting, or a training center, or anywhere there's a lot of people and they're all talking to each other, keep your eyes open. See if you can spot the people that just go along like sheep and say what they think people want to say. People who work a room, networking, have high self-worth, but they can change their approach to suit every person they talk to. So they're certainly not a sheep, they're more of a chameleon. So that's a touch of this one. That's this week's one all finished over. Hopefully we're going to have a good chat about this on the team, on the right week's one, remember, and in the tutorial. And keep your eyes open at work and in the open world to try and see some of this happening around you. If you can get the hang of these subjects, these ideas we're talking about, and you can sort of incorporate them into your own values and etc., you will do really well. And if nothing else, as long as you spot the ones that are bad for you, you can avoid those potholes. Okay? I think that's probably it for today. So you might see me dressed differently next, because I haven't written the next one, but I'm just about to start on it. So and it may be from home, it may be done from Brisbane. Next week in Brisbane, I'm down there all week. I've got meetings at UQ, so I will talk to you later on.